Welcome to this week's Future Toolbox podcast. We explore the Z to A of life skills, where each letter stands for a topic and essential tool to help you get ahead in life. Meet Jules and Mark, creators of the multi-award-winning Future Toolbox, and enjoy their straightforward approach to creating growth mindsets that help people turn their dreams into realities. Whether you're a teen in education, a parent, a teacher, or part of a community group, start creating positive habits from today.
Hi and welcome to our latest podcast. This is Mark and Jules from the award-winning Future Toolbox. Now today, keeping in line with the whole wellness for November, our topic is Z is for Z's, which is all about sleep.
It is indeed. And in our book, Don't Get Your Neck Tattooed, the first chapter is Z is for Z's. And the quote says, "I'm so good at sleeping, I can do it with my eyes closed." I love that quote.
Oh, that's very good. That's very good. So swiftly moving on, we have another guest today.
We do.
Well, not another guest. Actually, this lady has been on our podcast before, but welcome back to the wonderful Lex.
Hello.
Yay. Thank you. I'm really excited to be back, so I'm looking forward to this one. If I don't fall asleep.
Yeah, don't fall
Just
asleep
wake
in the
me
corner
up.
over there. Just before we start talking about sleep, talking about sleep, we work with a lot of teenagers in schools, and they always look for their dream job, which is to get paid for sleeping.
Dream job.
Do you see what we did there?
Oh, man.
No, sorry, that
well
took me a while.
I know. And then we used to say to teenagers and students in schools, don't be silly. There's no way you can possibly get paid to sleep. That's not realistic. And then we thought, actually, we'll do some research. So there was actually a job in 2006 at the company Travel Lodge, and they employed a director of sleep.
Director of sleep.
Oh, no. There you go. This person was paid to nap in the company's 25,000 beds, and they had to be a bed tester, and they were paid to sleep in designer beds every day for a month. I don't think she'd done all 25,000 in a month, of course.
Quite
Impressive.
And the job had hundreds and hundreds of applicants, apparently, but I think that'd be quite boring after a while, wouldn't it? I mean, travel lodges are great, aren't they? But
yeah.
I don't think I want to spend a load of time in a travel lodge.
I'm intrigued as to how you would choose that person to do that job, because would you have to see how well they sleep? How good they are at sleeping? How do you prove that? I was just thinking about that.
I was just thinking sleeping on cue as well. Like,
Yeah.
well, you got to be up all night, surely, then. You're up all night to
There's a bed in
sleep
the
all
corner.
day.
Off you go.
Show us how you sleep.
I love that. So we've actually dispelled the myth that you can actually get paid to sleep.
You can
Yep,
get paid to
definitely.
sleep.
Yeah, as a director of sleep at Travel Lodge.
And do you know what, actually, funny, Mark, I was just thinking, actually, there's loads of people out there who are getting paid while they sleep. So not like as you were saying, but think about passive income. How many people actually are getting money while they're sleeping? Bit like,
Or like
you
authors.
guys.
Yeah.
Right, there you go then. So if you're listening to this, buy a copy of our book, Don't Get Your Neck Tattooed. It's on the website, isn't it? And if you can read that at 4 o'clock in the morning,
Yep, you're
I
getting
will be
paid.
asleep. And I'll be
So
getting
will I.
paid
Yeah,
while asleep.
there we go.
Oh,
Result.
brilliant. That sounds, I don't have to go for a job interview then with Travel Lodge.
Do you think it's really a good idea, though, to be reading a book at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Yeah, joking aside, that's not a great idea. We're not going to suggest that. So we're going to talk a little bit about sleep hygiene. And sleep hygiene is nothing to do with personal hygiene, by the way, putting on deodorant or anything.
Before you go to bed.
Sleep deodorant.
It's not a bad thing either.
Yeah, lots of analogies already. We've only been going for a minute or so. But yeah, sleep hygiene is about regulating your body clock. So what's your body clock?
Yeah, your body clock is teaching yourself to basically regulate your sleep so that you try and go to sleep at the same time every night and wake up at the same time every morning. Which, teens, I'm sorry, that includes weekends.
It does, doesn't it? 7 days a week, 365 days a year.
Yeah, so learning to have that regular sleep. Lex, why is sleep so important to us?
Well, if we just go back to mental health as well, like sleep is a massive part of looking after our mental health. So when we can get that good pattern of sleep and that regular pattern of sleep, well, it's going to help towards good mental health. But if you're not really looking after your sleep and it's all over the place, broken, you're not getting enough, then you can slip into poor mental health through that, which then what you're going to do is potentially put yourself at higher risk of getting a mental illness. So actually, if you think about it, Jules, if I say to you, like, if you know you've had a really good night's sleep, what are you like the next day?
Oh, I'm in such a good mood. You feel energised, you feel relaxed, you feel like your body's had what it's needed, and you just feel ready to take on the whole day.
Yes, not just mentally, it's physically as well. When you think you're more motivated, you want to chat more.
I'll be honest with you, when I've had a good night's sleep and I'm in the kitchen and I've got the kettle on, I dance.
Having a boogie.
That's
what she's doing
Jules does the kettle dance.
You can't see, I was just about to say, you can't see her moving while she does that.
But there's nothing like a little bit of a boogie in the kitchen first thing in the morning, and that will raise your spirits anyway. But definitely, if you've had a good night's sleep, oh my goodness, you feel amazing. Or I certainly feel amazing.
So much more positive.
Yeah, and that's a real key example of regulating your body clock and getting it right. So studies show that teenagers need on average between 8 and 10 hours sleep a night. 7 days a week, we must add. Weekends don't count. And adults need between 7 and 9 hours sleep per night.
Yeah.
Actually, do you know what? That's really interesting, Mark, because I always think, person-centred, like we can go by that, but actually every individual's different. And I think it's really important to know that for yourself. So for me, I know that I function better. I'd probably someone who's around 9 to 10 hours a night.
Do you know, I think I function very, very well if I've had a good solid 7 hours.
Yeah. See, I know 7 hours wouldn't be enough for me. So
me too. I'm with you on that.
yeah, definitely. So that's what I mean. It's like actually know what's right for you, because 7 I would put me down under actually I wouldn't function as well the next day. But you give me that 9 to 10, that's where I sit.
That's where you sit on that one. And everybody is completely different. But while we're talking about this, there might be people out there thinking, yeah, great, but I work shifts. I work nights. So that is a whole nother area, isn't it? That's very difficult for them to be able to actually regulate their body clock, because, some people might be 3 nights work and then on to 4 days. So that's quite a struggle. That is quite a struggle.
And when you look at you and your hours of sleep, it's really interesting when we just go back to mental health as well, of just saying actually, when we look at good mental health or poor mental health, we can kind of go, oh, well, obviously sleep's one of those massive things where, say, Jules at 7 hours a night would be you in good mental health.
Oh, I'm dancing.
Give me, she's dancing in the kitchen still. But then we can kind of go, someone like me, if I had 7, potentially would give me poor mental health.
And if I am lucky enough to have that solid 7 hours, I'm flying. Everything's working on full cylinders. But if I have broken sleep, where I only sleep for a few hours, it always feels like you're awake for hours and hours through the night. But sometimes it's only maybe half an hour. But that break can make a massive difference to how you feel when you wake up, doesn't it? So as we said, sleep is absolutely fantastic. It's so good for you. But you imagine that when you're asleep, that's it, your whole body is closed down. But actually it isn't. Your body is amazing. What does it do whilst you're asleep?
Well, actually, if you think about it, it's really interesting. It's not only is your brain sort of ticking away while we're sleeping, but actually your body's mending while you're sleeping as well.
That's true. It's like you have a memory secretary. I heard this analogy years ago.
That's great.
Do you remember when people used to have secretaries in the old days, and the secretary would sort all the files out and everything? And that's what your brain does. It sorts all the useful stuff from the non-useful stuff. For example, if you're, say, a student at school and you've got given a really important piece of work to do, then your brain needs to remember that, and it will say, right, put that in the important stuff. But if you're walking down the street and your neighbour said hello to you and they were walking their dog, you don't need to remember that. Or you saw a blue car driving past. You don't
definitely
need to remember that. So the brain will go, that's in the non-important stuff. It will stay in the memory, but we'll put it over there just in case we ever need it, but we're very unlikely to.
Yeah, you think about how much information we take in a day. Thousands and thousands, millions, if not, of information in a day, and we don't need to hold all of that. So that's why exactly what you're saying when we're sleeping is brilliant to kind of go, actually, I don't need that, yet we need that.
Something else that your brain does when you're asleep is it takes things from your short-term memory, things that you do need to know, and actually puts it into your long-term memory, thus freeing up space for the next day for the stuff to go into your short-term memory. It's so clever. Well, your brain, your body is fantastic. And did you know there's actually 4 stages to your sleeping? So the very, very first one is what they call light sleep. And generally, this is like the first 7 minutes you're asleep. And really what's happening there is your brain waves, your heart rate, your eye movement, they begin to slow down in those first 7 minutes. And then the next stage, that's when your heart and your muscles continue to relax. But actually your brain waves kind of spike briefly. And then they all start to slow down. And then you're going to go into what we call the deep sleep. And this is where the magic happens. This is where your body actually goes to work.
Best part. So, when we sort of go into deep sleep, you say the magic happens there. It's where the eyes and muscles, they just don't move. and the brain waves just slow down a lot further. That's where the body begins to replenish. So that's where it'll be able to give you so much more energy. It will repair the cells, the tissues and the muscles. And that's why we're saying it's just not about the brain. That's where it's sort of mending the body as well, which you don't think about.
Wow.
Yeah, and then the fourth stage is what's called REM. So that repetitive eye movement. So
Not the band then.
The band, yeah.
yeah, we can play the music for that
Didn't they do a song called The Sidewinder Sleeps Tonight? It was all about sleep. Well, it was Sidewinder.
no
I don't know what it was
idea.
about. But anyway, carry on.
So yeah, this is where everything slows down, and this is actually where you process the stuff that's happened. Sometimes this is a part when if there's any traumas or anything major that's happened during the day, this is the part that has to reprocess that side to be able to let it go, to be able to move on. This is where the dreaming often happens. And let's say it processes the information basically. So this is a really important stage. So I don't know if you've heard of EMDR, eye movement desensitization form of therapy.
Yes, I've heard of this.
Yeah. So it's all to do with this REM stage. Sometimes our brain doesn't process stuff through the night, through REM, for whatever reason that is. It should do, but for sometimes it doesn't. And people that have been in traumatic events, this is why it still sits with them, because the brain hasn't processed it.
Oh, interesting.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's what exactly. So it's exactly the same. So in REM sleep, this is where our eyes flicker, and that's the processing of the information. This is where EMDR comes in lovely, because you work with that form of therapy is all about eye movement. So you're just putting someone into REM stage through therapy to process the trauma or whatever they've been through, and that's the way of removing it that way if sleep didn't do it.
Sounds fascinating, doesn't it?
Wow. So yeah, there's loads of ways that sleep therapy and these sort of techniques can really, really help you to help your body to stay in its optimum prime, really, isn't it?
Yeah, brain and body, definitely. Actually, what I did want to say about the 4 stages is really interesting when people think about sleep. Our brain kind of goes to a lot of focus on the deep sleep. We just need loads of deep sleep, where actually it's really important for us to deal with everything and process, or to have a good night's sleep. You're supposed to have all of those stages. So there's parts that you should be in REM, there's part of the night that you should be in deep sleep, and actually quite a lot of the night is that light sleep. But you've definitely got to have that mixture to have a really good night's sleep. You've got to have those mixture of all of those.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because you do assume that you have to have that.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it. No.
That's why those watches are really good. You know, when obviously people look at the sleep to almost go,
yeah.
actually, let's look at the mixture. That's why they look at the quality, because they look at all of those together.
Because I used to remember when I wore mine, you used to say to me, "Oh, did you sleep well last night?" And I used to say to you, "I'll just check my watch and I'll let you know."
But no, it's funny how many of us do that now, don't we? It's like, I'm just going to check my watch to see how well I've slept.
But yeah, you're talking about that's obviously good sleep. So for example, Mark, I know sometimes having a good night's sleep has been a struggle for you since having your brain injury. So how does that make you feel when you've had not so good night's sleep?
So since my brain injury, I've had to really focus on my body clock and making sure that's regulated. So if I don't get a good night's sleep and say have a really late night or wake up really, really early in the morning, then my concentration goes out the window, doesn't it?
Yeah.
I start yawning uncontrollably in the middle of conversations and have to embarrassingly explain to somebody why I'm yawning. It's not you're boring. It's just my sleep debt is really, really building up here. And the other thing as well is can affect your mood. So
Definitely.
my concentration is gone, then I get frustrated. Then the knock-on could be that because I'm frustrated, I could get a little bit snappy,
Yes.
or I'll miss a really, really important piece of information. So I guess that's exaggerated for me with a brain injury, but the adverse effects of lack of sleep are going to affect everybody, aren't they?
Yeah, so if we look at different ways that it affects us, again, it's different for different people. You know, we can be looking at things like mood disorders, lose concentration, as you've sort of said before, Mark.
Massively.
And you think if you're not concentrating, then the knock-on effect of that, where you can be more accident prone. We can look at things like it weakens your immune system. It can bring on anxiety. When you're sort of run down or tired, it's so much easier to get anxious.
Yeah, I think as well when you're that run down, because you've got that what we call sleep debt, which ironically, is nothing like money debt because you can't pay it back. You've lost that sleep. You don't owe me a tenner for you can do, whatever. But yes, sleep debt is completely different, and it can do things that Lex just explained, and it makes you feel quite ill, and it will do because you haven't got those defences. You've not had that sleep to build up your immune system. So the likelihood of catching bugs and all sorts of things that are going around are higher, aren't they?
Yeah, it's crazy. You don't think about it, just how important sleep is, and just how the massive effect, like we talked, didn't we, how well we function, what we're like when we do sleep, but actually how we're all different when we don't sleep.
Yeah, so sleep is huge, isn't it? It's really key to everything within your life.
Yeah, I know if I haven't had a good night's sleep, what a difference. I can be irritable. I'm not very motivated, so I know I've got stuff to do, but I just kind of I can't be bothered.
That's a brilliant one because your motivation is out that window, isn't it?
Yeah,
you might have gone to bed the night before thinking, right, this is what I'm going to do tomorrow. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to do that piece of work. I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and you don't get that night's sleep. And you wake up in the morning, you're sluggish, and you think, nah.
Yeah, lots of ways.
Not
Even
happening.
That's it. Not today. Or even chatting to people, like, I'm chatty and I'm a very sociable person, but actually if I've not had a good night's sleep, it'd be like, whoop, who can I avoid so I don't have to
It's
talk.
like talking to a pit bull terrier.
So I guess the next thing to look at is the top tips for getting good sleep. Now, I'm going to go right back to the teenagers and us working with teens in schools. There seems to be a real strange culture with teenagers, and I'm sure we did it as well, where you want to go to bed as late as possible, but you want to lay in all through the day. So stay awake through the night, sleep through the day. I never understood that. But the first tip I've got here, and this is actually from our book, Don't Get Your Neck Tattooed, Z is for Z's. It says, establish your regular routine by going to bed at the same time each day and getting up at the same time each morning, which we know is our body clock. And then another one says, create a calm and cool, dark, quiet bedroom. An uncluttered sanctuary will really, really help you.
Oh, yes, definitely. If you've got a lovely, relaxing place to go to sleep, it's certainly going to help rather than having like a really cluttered, so much going on in that room. What do you think, Lex?
Totally agree. For me, I think it's one of those, I think you were going to say anyways, like remove the TV, like I don't have a TV in my bedroom because I just think make it your space. It's where you go to sleep. Don't do anything else there. So if it's minimalistic, it then quiets the brain a little bit as well.
So when you get sent upstairs, tidy your room. That's why you got to tidy your room to get good sleep. We've got another one here as well, which says avoid eating heavy meals and reduce your intake of caffeine, sugar and fizzy drinks and chocolate.
Definitely.
Oh, yeah.
I have to work on that one, reducing my chocolate before I go to bed.
Definitely the eating, because I know sometimes we've worked on this, because if I eat after a certain point of an evening, it will keep me awake, or it stops me going to sleep at that regular time that I normally do. So that's a big one.
Yeah, I think that's a massive one as well. And when you think about, I don't know, if we go just quickly on anxiety, if you go into bed and you feel anxious at all, of course, if you have got your sugar or your caffeine, it's just going to enhance that. It's going to make it harder to go to sleep.
Another one we've got here as well is perhaps listening to some soothing music before you go to bed. It's quite a good one, isn't it?
Yes, and there's loads of stuff out there that can really help you. And we discussed a few weeks ago, didn't we, about meditation?
I was just thinking that.
Yeah.
Meditation's a good one.
See that?
Yeah. Meditate before you go to sleep. So don't listen to hardcore dance tunes or heavy metal rock.
No, that's when you get up in the morning and you're full of energy because you've had that sleep.
Yeah, definitely.
Put some rock music on. Another one as well, and I remember you talked about this the other day, Jules. You were saying about don't look at your clock in the night. So if you wake up in the night, don't look at the clock and go, it's 3:33. Oh my God.
Yeah.
Gosh, I was told that a few years ago, and it really, really helps, regardless of whether you're actually trying to get to sleep or whether you wake up in the middle of the night, is avoid looking at that clock, because then it puts you under pressure, or you feel under pressure, because if you're trying to get to sleep and you think, well, I should be asleep, it's 10:30 and it's 11:15 or it's 11 o'clock and oh my goodness, this is going to happen, and it just creates that kind of anxiety, that stress moment. And the same when you wake up in the night, don't look at that clock. Get rid of the clock.
I completely agree, because that was me. I don't know if it was a couple of years ago, I always had a digital clock, and I was exactly the same, so I could see it through the night. And mine was more of a, say I'd wake up at 3, I'd be counting how many hours I've got left, and I'd struggle to go back to sleep, to go, oh God, you've got 5 hours. I'm like, oh, I've only got 4. So since I've moved mine now to a clock that I can't see, I honestly do sleep so much better when I can't see the time.
So throw the clock and the TV out the window. Don't do that. Please don't do that.
Something else as well that I was told, and it works well for me. Say if I fall asleep at 11 and I wake up between 6:30 and 7, if I actually wake up a little bit earlier, it's fine. If I'm feeling good, it's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
And just get up and start your day. Don't think, oh, I've got to go back to sleep, I've got to go back to sleep, because
That's me.
sometimes
Unfortunately.
put yourself under pressure and then you get annoyed, and then you're perhaps not in the greatest of moods then when you get downstairs to switch that kettle on and have a boogie.
I'm going to pick another one here, and this is not fighting to stay awake. And this is a massive teen culture, but I do this as well. So if I'm watching something on TV and there's 10, 15 minutes to go, I battle to watch the end of that episode.
Yeah.
And I know teens do this quite a lot, where they would try and stay awake for as long as they possibly can. And they're really, really tired, but they're battling to talk to their mate on social media, or watch a TV program, watch something on YouTube. So we really, really need to get away from this fighting.
Yeah, definitely. I've got to say this quickly, because that's exactly what my mum does. It's so funny. It's like I can sit with her and I'll see her eyes going, and I'm like, Mum, are you tired? No. So sometimes I think, is it habit? So she's literally sometimes sitting with her eyes closed, and I'm like, you sure you're not tired, Mum?
Go to sleep, woman.
No. Yeah. She's like, no, it's fine. And then she'll still be up 4 hours later.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, yeah.
I'll hold my hand up. I'm quite guilty of that sometimes. So, yeah, I think we've established now that everybody needs a good sleep routine, and that it helps you to keep healthy and functioning, doesn't it?
So I want to go off and go to sleep now. But before we do that, we want to say thanks to Lex for coming in.
Yay!
Thank
Always
you.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
And
Enjoyed that.
just remind these guys where they can find you.
Yeah, so your best place to find me really is go to lexlovell.com, and you'll find all my contact details on there.
Fabulous.
So thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I've really enjoyed that yet again.
And also,
And I'm
thank
sure
you-
you'll be back again.
Yeah, I hope so.
And thank you so much to our listeners for tuning in again today. So you can find us on futuretoolbox.co.uk. We're also on social media. You can go to Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, or subscribe to us on YouTube. And we look forward to seeing you all very soon.
Thank you for joining us for the Z2A of Life Skills with Jules and Mark of the Future Toolbox. Don't forget to head over to their website, which is futuretoolbox.co.uk, where you can find lots of free resources, plus a host of books in the store, as well as subscribing to the membership site. Follow Future Toolbox Instagram, TikTok and Facebook at Future Toolbox, and subscribe to their YouTube channel too.